Hello there, Mark Cunningham here, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can bulk import invoices into Xero. So I'm going to show you how you can set up your import file, and then I'm going to give you lots of tips along the way to ensure that your import is successful. So in this video I use the Australian version of Xero's demo company, but you can use this video for any country's version that you like. And also, if you'd like to learn more about Xero, check out the links to the courses in our description below. Okay, so when you're creating invoices in Xero, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it one at a time if you've just got one to create, or you can bulk import them if you want to save yourself some time. And situations in which you might want to use the bulk import are if you're converting to Xero, or if you're using it for the first time and you've got lots of invoices to bring in, or just at any other time when you've got lots of invoices that you need to create in the system at once. So for the bulk import, Xero does provide a CSV upload file, which you can prepare in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So I'll show you how to do that. And along the way, I'll give you lots of tips of things to do to make sure that we get the import right. Okay, so let's jump into Xero now and get started. Okay, so just over here in the Australian version of Xero's demo company, all I need to do is go to Business and Invoices, and then click on Import at the top. And we're taken to the screen where we can start the import process. So just at the top here, I've just selected Xero for what system are you importing from, because I'm just going to put some details into the file and then upload it. There's also a couple of options there if you're importing from a different accounting system. So depending on what country you're from, you might actually see something different there, and you just need to go ahead and select whatever you need. Just below here, we've got the button to download the CSV template. So I'll just click on that. Okay, so that's downloaded here, and you can see that when I open it, it's going to open up in Microsoft Excel, but you can also import it into Google Sheets if you need to. So I'll just open it up now. Okay, so here I am in Microsoft Excel. And what we have here is we have this file where we've got these names at the top that correspond to the field names that we have in our invoices in Xero. So what I'll do is I'll just widen these columns so we can see the names a bit better. So you can see here we've got things like contact name, email address, invoice number, etc. And they correspond to fields that we've got over in the invoices, which I'll show you in a sec. And then down here on all these other lines, this is where we're going to fill out the details of each invoice that we're going to upload. So let's just go back into Xero for a sec, and we'll just duplicate the screen, and we'll go back into invoices, and we'll have a look at this one from Bayside Club. And you can see here we've got all these different fields. So you've got two, so that's the name of the customer that we're sending the invoice to. And then you've got things like the reference, the invoice number, the issue date. Down here, we've got things like the item description and the general ledger code and the tax rate, etc. Obviously, you've got price and quantity as well. And these are the kind of fields that correspond to what we have over in that template. So we need to fill out the template in such a way that we would upload the invoice to turn out something like this. So I'll just go back over here to Excel, and that's the names up there that we just saw, things like name and invoice number, invoice date, etc. Okay, so some of these fields are compulsory and some of them aren't. So the ones here that have the asterisks, they're compulsory. So you do need to fill out information for those ones. So what I might do is I will just highlight them, and we'll just make them red. That, and I think I got them all. There's no more over here that are compulsory, just so we can see them a bit better. So they're the ones that you definitely have to fill out when you're uploading your invoices. Okay, and just before we start filling out some information, I'll just tell you a few things about the contact name field here. So if you want to upload an invoice to a contact that already exists in Xero, so if we come back over to Xero, we can see here that the Bayside Club is a contact that already exists in there. So if we want an invoice to go to that contact, we need to make sure that we type the name in exactly as it is already in Xero. If we get it wrong, if we get something slightly different, then it will create a new contact and it will upload the invoice to the new contact. So just make sure you get your names right if you've already got the contact in Xero. Likewise, if you actually do want to create a new contact, then you can do that. You don't need to have the contacts already in Xero. You can just type the name of the new contact in here and it will create that contact and it will assign the invoice to that contact when you do the upload. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an invoice for the Bayside Club. So I'll go ahead and type that in like so. So this invoice is going to go to that existing contact that we have in Xero. So in these next few fields here, the contact details, which is the email address and the postal addresses, etc. If I type something into here, when it does the upload, it will overwrite what's already in Xero for that contact. So if I put in an email address here, it will upload that email address into the Bayside Club contact. If I leave it blank, then it will just leave whatever details are already in Xero. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're filling this out. You may have no need to actually put this information in. Okay, next we have the all-important invoice number. So for this one, all you need to do is make sure that you don't use an invoice number that's already in Xero. If you try to upload your file and you've got an invoice number that's already in Xero, it won't upload that particular line. So you just got to make sure that's unique. So I'm going to go ahead and put something in there now. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that invoice number is not in Xero already, so it should be okay to upload that line. Next up, you've got a reference. So if you need to put something in there, such as a purchase order number, you can do that. As you can see, it's not compulsory, so you can leave it blank. And then next up, you've got your invoice date and your due date. So what you need to do here is just make sure you get your date format right. So for me, it's going to be day, day, month, month, year, 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 year. But if you're in the US, your days and months could be the other way around. So I'll just go ahead and put some information in there. Okay, so I've just got an invoice date there of the 15th of July, and I've got a due date being 1 month later. All right, next up we have this inventory item code. So if you use the products and services section in Xero, either for physical inventory or for services that you sell over and over again, you can go ahead and put the code in here. I'm not going to explain further what that is in this video because I do have other videos on these topics. For this particular invoice, I don't have an inventory item code. And instead, I'm going to fill out these fields over here. So for the description, I'm just going to say consulting. Okay, so obviously just put in whatever description you need for your product or service that you're invoicing for. And then for quantity and unit amount, what you need to do is fill these out, and then Xero will use that to calculate the actual total amount of this invoice, or at least this line of this invoice. So if we go back over into Xero, I'll show you what I mean. So over here in this invoice for Bayside Club, you can see we've got quantity 1, price 10, and then it's got amount over here. So that's 1 times 10 is 10. And then the next line is 40 times $5.60, which is 224. So the information that we're filling in over here is the quantity and the price. That's what we're filling in our template. And then Xero will go ahead and calculate the total for this column over here. You don't have to put these numbers in. So we'll just go back. Okay, and there you can see we've got the quantity and the amount, and then Xero will do the total. All right, so I'll just put in some information here. Okay, so I've just got quantity 1 and the unit amount of 100. So that's going to end up being $100 as the total for that line. The next field is the discount field. And here you can put in a discount as a percentage. So what you need to do is just put it in as a decimal though, and you need to put it to 2 decimal places, and do not put in the percentage sign. So if it's a 10% discount, you would put 0.1. If it was a 15% discount, you would put 0.15, but it's not compulsory, so you can leave that one blank if there's no discount. All right, so the next two here, account code and tax type, they are compulsory. And this is where you're going to choose your general ledger code. So we'll just go back to Xero and we'll have a look at the invoice here. And what you've got here, you've got the account here and the tax rate here. So the account, or the general ledger code, or the general ledger code's name that is freight and courier. And the tax rate, which is a GST tax rate here in Australia, is GST on expenses. And then the next line has a sales code there for the general ledger code, sales account. And the tax rate is GST on income. All right, so I'll just show you where that comes from. If I duplicate the screen, and we'll just go to advanced. We'll go to the chart of accounts. And I'll just go to the revenue tab. Okay, so if we're sending an invoice, we're most likely going to use one of these types of codes. So sales income, for example. So that's the name there. That's the code number there. And this is the GST tax rate over here. So this is GST on income. If you're from another country, if you're not from Australia, you might have different GST tax rates, or it could be VAT or sales tax or something else. But whatever the case, it's basically the same thing. So I'll just go back over. And what I'll do is I'll use that one. So the account code for sales was 200 and the tax type was GST on income. Okay, so I'll just widen that so we can see it properly. Okay, so once again, depending on what country you're from, just make sure you get the right tax type in there, because if you're from a different country, you'll probably have something totally different to put in there. All right, so once we've got those in there, the rest of these options are not compulsory. So we've got tracking names and tracking options, and they're only if you use tracking categories. So I won't go into that here because I've got other lessons on the channel on that. So you can just have a look at that if you need to use these. And then for currency, if your Xero file just uses the one currency, so if all I had was Australian dollars, I wouldn't need to put anything in there. Or if Australian dollars was my base currency for my Xero file, but I did have multiple currencies, I could just leave that blank. But if I wanted this particular invoice to be in a different currency to what I normally use or have set up in Xero, say New Zealand dollars, for example, I would type NZD in there. If it was Great British Pounds, it would be GBP. So if you do need to put a currency code in there, find out what the code is and just pop it in here. And just as a side note, if this was actually a multi-line invoice, if we had more than one line, you could only use one currency. You'd have to use the same currency for each line. You can't have one line as Australian dollars, one line as New Zealand dollars, for example. It all has to be the same currency. Okay, but if you're just using your base currency, you don't have to put anything in there at all. All right, finally, we've got the branding theme. So this is the look and feel of your actual invoice. Once again, I've got other videos that cover this sort of thing, so I won't go right into it. But if you want to choose a branding theme name during your upload, you can go ahead. If not, you can actually go and choose the branding theme for each individual invoice after you've done the upload. So maybe when you're going through the approval process, you can do that. Okay, so that's for a single line invoice. So what I'll show you now is that you can actually create multi-line invoices. If we go back into Xero and we go back over to that invoice, you can see here that this invoice actually has two lines. The one that we've created in our upload spreadsheet or CSV file only has one line. So what I'll do next is I'll go and create another one that has two lines. And the way you do that is you just make sure that both lines have the same invoice number, and that tells Xero that both of the lines, or as many lines as you've got, all belong to the one invoice. So let's just go back over to Excel and we'll see how that works. Okay, so I'll just create a two-line invoice. I'll put information on two lines here. But what I'll also do is I'll create a brand new contact here. So I'll create a contact that doesn't already exist in Xero just by having a new name in there that's not in Xero. So I'll just go ahead and fill out all the information. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got two lines, and I've created this brand new contact called ABC123. And then over here, I've got the same invoice number on each line. So that tells Xero that this is one invoice with two lines to be uploaded to it separately. And then I've just got some dates. And then over here, I've got the description and the quantity and the unit amount. So I've got consulting and support on this particular invoice. And then right over here, I've just chosen the sales revenue account code there, but I've also chosen the other revenue account code there, just so we've got two different GL codes that I can show you on the invoice once they upload. Okay, so we've got a 1-line invoice and a 2-line invoice to upload. So what we'll do is we'll just save it, and then we'll go into Xero and we'll upload it. Okay, so we'll just go back over to this import screen over here. So we just completed step 1, where we downloaded the invoice template. And then we also completed step 2, where we've put the information in. So just a couple of notes here. It says here, just make sure that you don't change the column headings that are provided in the template, which we didn't do, because if you do change them, your upload won't work. So just make sure you don't do that. And then also just a little note down here about making sure that your dates are in the right format. Okay, now just down the bottom, there's a couple other things. Would you like to update contact address details? So that's what I was talking about before when I said if you put information in the contact detail fields for contacts that are already in Xero, you can overwrite them if you say yes, or you can actually just ignore it if you say no. So if you click on no, you'll make sure that you don't actually overwrite any contact details in Xero if you've accidentally put something in. So a little bit of a safety catch there. And then finally, you've got this one, which is pretty important, whether the unit amount fields are tax inclusive or exclusive. So that's GST for me. So you got to choose the right one here, and that corresponds to over here when you actually create an invoice and you choose whether the amounts are tax inclusive or exclusive. So this one is inclusive, which means that price there includes 10% GST. So that's the GST there, which is 1/11th, and then that's the total amount. So if this invoice was tax exclusive, that would be $10 plus 10% GST. So that would be another $1 there, and the total amount would be 11. So you've just got to make sure that you choose the right one down here and that you type the numbers into your field, into your unit amount field in your spreadsheet, in your CSV file, the right way around, whether they include or exclude GST. So I'm going to choose tax exclusive, which means that the numbers that I've typed in to the CSV file for the amounts do not include GST. It will add GST on when it creates the invoices. All right, so I'll choose browse to find my file and then upload it. Okay, and then click on import. Okay, so it's done a little bit of checking here, and it says the imported file there contains 2 invoices, which is true. We created 2 invoices, even though we had 3 lines. One of them is a 2-line invoice. And then it says 2 new draft invoices will be imported. So it's going to save them as drafts. And it's also basically saying that there's no errors here. If you've made some errors, it should tell you right here, and then you'll have to go back and fix them. All right, so I'll just complete the import. And that seems to have worked pretty well. So just over here in the draft tab that we've got on our main invoices screen, you can now see we've got the 2 invoices that we created and uploaded. So we've got that one there and that one there. Those are the 2 invoice numbers that we used. This first one for the Bayside Club, this is the 1-line invoice that we created. So we just had that 1 line of consulting for $100. And remember, we chose tax exclusive. So that's why it's added $10 GST on the top, and the total is actually 110. So if you've made a mistake, you can actually go and change these fields now, because this is just a draft invoice. So you could change that to tax inclusive, or you could change the invoice number or the dates or anything really. And also you can choose the branding theme over here, which is the look and feel of your invoice if you've got branding themes set up. You remember I didn't actually put one in when we did the upload, and I said I'll just choose it during the draft approval process. So this is where you'd go to do that. All right, so we'll just get back out of there and we'll go and have a look at the other one. Okay, so this is the 2-line invoice that we created, which was that invoice number. And we had an amount going to sales, general ledger code, and an amount going to other revenue, which was for the support. So 2 different general ledger codes there, 2 different descriptions, both on the one invoice. And once again, all those settings are the same, the tax exclusive, etc. And like I said before, you can change whatever you like. So the last thing I wanted to show you was, you remember that we actually created a brand new contact. ABC123 wasn't in Xero already. So if we go over to our contacts, what it's done during that import process, it's created this contact here. And if I click into it, you can actually see that particular invoice that we created is now actually in the activity for this contact. So it's created the contact, and of course it's assigned the invoice to it, but we didn't fill out any other information for the contact. We didn't put anything else in there. So if we click on edit, this is where we can go in afterwards and put in all the contact details that you need, just as normal, as if you were setting up a contact. So you've got addresses and names and all sorts of things. So you can put those in later, is basically what I'm saying. Okay, so that's how you can bulk import your invoices into Xero. If you need to, you can do 1-line invoices, you can do multi-line invoices, and after you've uploaded them, you can come through and change things if you like, and you can also create new contacts and then go in and put the information in later. So that's how you can do bulk invoice importing in Xero.